Welcome to Let's Play Rule the Waves 3 as Germany starting in 1935. This is the middle of 1937 and we are at war with the USSR and we survived our first big battle with them. I'm calling this episode Defending the Baltic States because I think that's going to be my primary concern throughout the next few months until the Soviet invasion of the Baltic States is defeated. But before we get in there, a really interesting question was asked by Quaz, who said, well, what was the strategy behind not chasing the enemy fleet in the previous Battle of Dago? The implication being that the Soviet light cruiser and the few destroyers that remained were easy meat for my fleet to go through. And it's an important question really around when's enough? When have you scored a good enough navy? When should you retire rather than just annihilate every single ship on the high seas? So it produced an interesting discussion. Karin noted that it just probably wasn't worth it in terms of victory points, and Michael amplified that by noting that although the big guns had been sunk on the heavy cruisers, torpedoes are still incredibly dangerous, particularly 30s and 40s torpedoes. And I think it was made worse by the fact that it would have had to have been a chasing engagement in which my course would have been highly predictable. And if I deviated from chasing them as fast as I could and start zigzagging to avoid imagined torpedoes, then I would fall behind very quickly. A state made worse by the fact that we had a high sea state. We were limited to 28 knots for the heavy ships and 27 knots for the destroyers. So what's likely to have happened is that my destroyers would have slowly fallen back and I would have caught up with Soviet destroyers slowly falling behind their light cruiser, which obviously would have left my heavy cruisers unscreened and unprotected from the Soviet destroyers, with my own destroyers far behind, which is, not really a desirable state when amplified with the whole keeping in a straight line and the whole torpedo thing being very dangerous. I also would have been heading towards the Soviet air bases, which would have exposed my fleet to some air attack, although I could have called on CAP from the land air bases at Reval that I would have been passing, and I remembered to do such a thing. And actually, for me, the main goal with the two Soviet heavy cruisers sunk was to save the Gneisenauer, because her loss would have far outweighed any gain that I'd have got from sinking the remaining light cruiser and a few Soviet destroyers. Indeed, could have jeopardized my gain in fleet morale, for example. But super interesting question, and one that you should be constantly asking yourself in battle. When have I done enough? When should I return to base? Right, let's get into the game. Let's zoom in. I don't think there's very much adjustment to do. We are now fully committed, bar a few bits and bobs, into the Baltic. If we have a look at our area overview, you can see that we have 7 ships and only 6 are required in Northern Europe on trade protection, and we have 23 on trade protection when we're only required to have 17. If we have a look at the minesweeping, our ratio of mine laying to mine sweeping is quite bad in Northern Europe, but then they don't have many mine layers there. Whereas our ratio in the Baltic is sort of 3 mine layers for every mine sweeper. That's going to be addressed in a couple of months when these wonderful trawlers are going to finish their conversions and find themselves very quickly sent to the Baltic to help out, however bad they are. I wanted to get rid of most of my airships, but I'd forgotten how to do it. I thought you could do it on the base view, and there you go. Oh, look, there's an airship base in Tonda, for example. But in fact, it's on the coastal fortifications one. So if I just sort by class and go down to airship base and hit scrap, that will scrap the one in Tonda. And for experimental and romantic reasons, I will keep one in Danzig and see if that actually manages to achieve anything during this war. And if not, well, it's bye-bye airship era, and if they do, well, that will be a pleasant surprise. I think that's all I need. Oh, someone I've forgotten who it was rightly pointed out that I had auto move on the submarines and auto move on the ASW. Because I kind of know where all the action is, I don't need to have that enabled because it would only go and override. Finances, -7.5. That should come down a little bit once the trawlers are done. And once the trawlers are done, I will take a view as to whether to put one of the runes into halting that construction in order to recover the finances. No new money at the moment. So I think that's everything. So let's go and see what August is going to bring us in terms of battles. So an enemy coastal raid, a battle in support of land combat. Well, I'm absolutely going to accept that. Oh, and the Russians decline. I have to say, the Russians are declining more than I could possibly have imagined, given that they've got 6 battleships and I've got 1 battle cruiser. I mean, yes, it's a very good battle cruiser, but, you know, honestly, a cruiser action, well, I would have thought that they will decline this, but I'll accept it. Yeah, no surprise there. Action with light forces, again, in support of the land combat. Yes, absolutely. Oh. Convoy defense. Who doesn't love a good convoy defense? Yes, we are good to go. So we have mine operations in these mysterious regions, which is great. And if we zoom out, it should come up with the map any moment. 2 destroyers unable to take part because of a lack of fuel. 166 nautical miles. I mean, how much fuel do you need? Attack enemy ships. Yeah, the airfields are too far away. And here we go. So classic, just off the coast of Sweden, just a bit south of Stockholm. Good place. So we only have a squadron of 4 light cruisers. Let's go and have a little look. It's the first. So actually, let's zoom all the way in. We have the Hamburg, which is 9 6-inch guns, 2-inch belt. So that's good. We have the München, which is 12 6-inch guns, a little bit earlier. The Leipzig, again 12 6-inches, and the Berlin, and 9 6-inches, even older still. Unlike the heavy cruisers, which I don't really like very much on the German side, far too weak, as the Gneisenau taking 1 torpedo hit and nearly sinking demonstrated, these light cruisers all seem to be, you know, relatively fine. Not perturbed by any of them. We have a destroyer division, number 2, which is assigned to screen them and in the division editor, and that's exactly what they're doing. So we will keep them screening until we find the enemy, which probably won't be very long, and that will be fine. Wind is from the northwest. It's clear. It's a gentle breeze. 27,000 range, 5,000 at night. So it's a pretty clear summer's day in the northern latitudes. It's daylight. Dusk will be at a lot later, in 10 hours time, and it's a 600-minute battle. So okay, that all should be fine. Let's zoom out and let's just gently go and find. I'm not going to catapult the aircraft, partly because I think they're nearby already, and partly because somebody mentioned that there's a nice cheesy tactic where actually you can send them off on a little bombing run and they actually may have more success than you could imagine. So I'm going to say no and no. There's the convoy. We are defending. Lots of lovely convoynessness. I'm just going to simplify some of the arrows. So sighting range, I'm going to keep that on. The main gun range and the torpedo range. I'm going to take off the torpedo range because the torpedo range is almost the same as the main gun range. So you just need to be aware. These guys all seem to be heading north. but I will keep heading in the direction that I was given and slightly cut through the convoy. Convoy seems to be turning. I have another destroyer squadron, which I didn't see. They're also on screen. I might just take them off and put them on support and make them line ahead in anticipation of the battle to come. So the merchant ships seem to have turned at 180 degrees, as is their wont. So that's fine. So I don't want to get too far from the convoy. Let's let the convoy, there we go, take up whatever station it wants, and there they are. Good. So I'm going to take the sighting range off, put the torpedo one back on again, and we will head towards them and see what that brings. So they're turning away already. The convoy is mucking about, or a rule unto itself. And yeah, the Russians seems to have turned and gone north. So there is the light cruiser, 5 6-inch guns. Wow. I mean, that's a really old light cruiser. Yeah, that's not going to be long for this world if we can catch them up. So time for a little bit of squad max. Let's head north a bit and carry on. The Soviets only have 3 destroyers as well as this light cruiser. This would seem to be an opportunity to actually completely defeat them, you know, in answer to that question, when is it enough? Well, this would seem to be enough. I'm going to take this off screen and put them to support and put them in line ahead as well, especially as they seem to have developed a mind of their own anyhow. So yeah, this could well be a chase. Let's zoom in and see if we can outrun them. Gonna head the light cruisers in that direction. That was just a tiny tweak. Yeah, I'm going to take these off by AI, and it's not really AI, you know, it's only algorithms, but bloody good algorithms. Okay, so we seem to be overhauling them a bit. Certainly this destroyer in the rear doesn't seem to be enjoying itself. I'm going to straighten up and I'm going to turn together in order for the light cruisers not to be masked too much by each other. The smoke won't be helping. So that's already stopped one of the Russian destroyers. I'm going to turn away from that actually because I don't want to get too close and have it shoot off a sneaky torpedo shot at me. And now I'll return back to the Russian light cruiser. Let me just check. 29 knots. So as long as my engines stay good, we definitely are going to capture them. Don't think we need to be shooting at them anymore. So we will shoot at them. Ooh, let me just check to see if they can shoot that far. So the data for the 6-inch guns is 14,000, so extreme long range for them. Okay, well, that's really the only significant ship that I'm particularly worried about. But actually, I say that, it might be better. No, I'll stick with that. There is this one, but this is the one that it's shooting at. There's that one, which is just as far away, so let's go for the light cruiser and see what that brings. I don't know where these chaps think they're going in their support role. Also, they haven't adopted the line ahead that I would quite like them to adopt. So I'm going to make these go back into line just to tidy that up a bit. They still want to fire at that wasted cruiser. And make this core. No, there's no core option. Well, hopefully just catch up, chaps. Oops. I'm going to take some of these off because I think we know we are in range. So wrecking this destroyer as it twists and turns. It's getting a bit close, so I'm going to make these guys turn away. Don't know what's happened to the Berlin. Speed of 20. Yeah. Literally no idea why it's going so slowly. So I'm going to run into it. I could turn away from it, but then it would allow these guys to escape, whereas these chaps are going to go heading towards. And these guys will, oops, turn into them again. Hopefully that's sorted out that one, if we don't ram it by accident. Look at these brave guys. There we go. Well, seems to be a satisfactory piece of hunting. So that will give the Russians even less. And yeah, just bringing the light cruisers out of it because I don't think they need any further risking. And finish off these and finish off that. There we go. So I'm going to put this back onto AI. In fact, I'm going to put all the destroyers back onto AI and hope they take the hint to reform themselves. They have done their bit. So, I mean, that was a super simple piece of execution, assuming that that's the only force in the area. So I think that's everybody. These people can come down to cruise. Yeah, I know this destroyer is still around, but honestly, I don't really care. They seem to be having a bit of fun chasing it. Just seeing if any of them need to return to battle. So I'm just going to set them to return. And bring them back to the convoy. And hopefully everyone else will come along with me. So yeah. I was just going to say, who cares if one of the Russian destroyers survives? Oops. Honestly, that was very, very straightforward. And I even forgot to launch my float planes. So, there we go. Oh, for heaven's sake. Did Berlin, when it says torpedoed, did it survive? No. Well, that was a total cheat to have lost the Berlin that way. Still a victory, but substantially less. Let's see the ship details. So again, we establish a huge amount of points. And we sunk a Russian submarine, despite poor old Berlin sinking. Yep. One torpedo hit. Ka-chung. The Russian light cruiser. Completely wrecked. Yeah. Just absolutely end-to-end destroyed. Okay. So, a bit jammy to have missed it. Yeah, one destroyer makes it back just. Okay. Let's close that down. Marginal victory, I know, would have been better. I mean, at least Berlin was the oldest of our light cruisers, so it's the least valuable. So there we go. The main thing is we've denied them the opportunity to benefit from resupplying their forces in the Baltic. So actually, the declined battles in support of the land forces are actually more significant. New medium bomber. Let's have a look at the new medium bomber. Sorry, let's zoom in. So our heavy range was 409. Oh, exactly the same. Our speed, tiny bit faster in both cruise, and so the Henschel is looking ever so slightly better. Equal toughness. Bomb load is, oh no, so heavy bomb load goes up to 2 1,400-pound bombs. Still no torpedoes. I mean, considering this is from 1933 to 1937, that's actually a pretty poor comparison between the two. And actually, the range of the Henschel is worse. So if we go to the Messerschmitt, the range is a tiny bit worse. Yeah, you get an increase in bomb load, particularly at light and at heavy. I'm sort of minded not to bother. These seem to be doing a perfectly good job. Their reliability is a nice steady eddy average. The range is almost identical. The bomb load's ever so slightly more. The range is slightly more. I suppose in terms of if these get an improvement, you know, a B and a C variant, etc., this is probably a better base from which to start. So, yeah, I guess on that basis, these ranges, though, they're rubbish. They're actually slightly less than my current one. That's a really tricky choice. I'm going to say no. Our forces are valiantly fighting in the Baltic States. Well done. Suggest a plan to seize Greece. So I hope this isn't the only blitzkrieg offer that I get. I'm going to say no, because I'm still incredibly weak. I still only have 1 battle cruiser and 4 indifferent heavy cruisers. I'm at war with the Russians. It will only annoy the British, the French, the Italians, possibly the Americans as well. You know, if it was Norway, I wouldn't hesitate in the slightest. But Greece, I'm going to say no. That's a stupid idea. Oh, God. Well, how wise not to monkey around, because the Graf Spee is now in dockyard hands for 5 months. Great. Well, good news. I can use that time to refit it. But, you know, honestly, one of their Murmansk light cruisers has gone on to raiding and has sunk a whole ship in the North Atlantic. So, in the European, Northern Europe, but not of any significance. So that will stop us from blockading Russia again. So some of our bases have finished expanding their capacity, which is nice. Okay. So let's close that down. So here's a quick look at the Grass Spay, and I can't actually see anything that I can upgrade whilst it's being repaired. 5 months as well. Torpedo Defence 3, 1 torpedo, 5 months, honestly. So yeah, the 16 inches are all fine. The 5-inch dual purpose is as good a quality as I can manage. The fire control is all great. It doesn't have any other additional armaments except for the 2 float planes. So yeah, I really can't see, and we only have 57 tons remaining, so there's nothing to be done with that. Having a little look at the Gneisenauer that's currently under repair, there is one thing I can do, which is I can make these 5-inch guns dual purpose, which takes the heavy AA from 16 to 27. Does mean I have to slightly adjust this down to that. If I take it up to 4 AA directors, get 2 more, I have to lose a bit. We'll keep it at 3. So yeah, that does seem a worthwhile little refit whilst it's being repaired. Oh, and boom, a bit of that too. And now we've exceeded that. Oh, okay, there we go. Now it'll let us. Boom, there you go. So it's always worthwhile whilst the ship is being repaired in dockyard hands to also see what's available for refit. It does take the ship out of here and put it into here, but it's the same month length of time. So yeah, good thing not to have had a go at blitzkrieging Greece of all countries. So that was all very straightforward for August. Join me again next time to see what we can do heading into the early autumn. Thanks for watching and take care.